Good afternoon. This is Wes Fryer in Charlotte, North Carolina, and today is November 9th, 2025. This is my sermon sketch note from a sermon shared today by Reverend Dot Killian at Caldwell Presbyterian Church, and the title of her sermon was Children of the Resurrection. Reverend Killian began her sermon by asking, what comes next? Is there resurrection? And she talked about, in the time of Jesus, the way that the Sadducees were challenging Jesus' authority. And the scripture that we actually read was from Luke chapter 20. These were some of the verses. Jesus said to them, "Those who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage." And this was in response to a question that the Sadducees posed about kind of a story of a woman who had 7 husbands because, after one husband died, then the brother had married. And so they asked, who will this woman be married to in the resurrection? And she reminded us that the Sadducees believed in determinism. So they weren't, free will advocates. They didn't believe in angels and heavenly beings, and they didn't believe in the resurrection. And so they had actually been challenging Jesus about the authority on which he taught. We read Luke 20, verses 27 through 40. And so this question of the resurrection, Reverend Killian said, we don't have, she used the words empirical evidence, but of course this is what Easter and the Christian faith is based on, and so on faith. But also in our lives, we know about the reality of resurrection, but we believe in the resurrected Jesus. And then she explains, and I thought this was so interesting, that in answering the Sadducees, Jesus pointed back to the Torah, and he talked about how God in Exodus 3, where we're reminded, Moses in the burning bush, and God talks to him and talks about, I am the God of your ancestors, of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob. And he answers in the present tense, God does, in Exodus 3. And so in answering their question about the resurrection, by pointing back to Torah and back to Exodus 3, Jesus is highlighting what is not explicitly in Scripture, but is an understanding that, yes, there is resurrection and there is life beyond the grave. But the point is that life after death, and this is what Jesus is saying, is not just a continuation of our earthly life. It's different. And so that's why, Jesus is saying, they're like angels or children of God. They're children of the resurrection. And so he's reminding them of that story. And so she went on to tell a personal story. Reverend Killian was a lawyer and went on to be a judge for decades. And she told a story about taking the bar exam, and she actually failed the North Carolina bar exam, but passed the South Carolina bar exam, and then somehow, I guess, missed an application date for North Carolina. And, a friend helped her realize, God's trying to tell you something here. And so, she went on to practice law and be a judge for decades in South Carolina. And so she shared that as a story of new life, of resurrection, and the ways that God acts in our lives to bring about new life and resurrection. And so she encouraged us to look to the record of our lives, and that as we look at the record of our lives, we can recognize how God brings resurrection and the reality of resurrection. And it was a very inspiring message, which I certainly connected with myself. And I won't go into this today, but with my own experiences in life in the Air Force and then becoming a school teacher, I really resonated with this. So wonderful, wonderful message. I want to encourage you to check out Caldwell Presbyterian Church. You can find us at caldwellpresby.org, and we are a wonderful, loving, and inviting and welcoming church. We believe that God invites, and our job is to welcome all and to love all and to serve all. And it is just a fantastic church in uptown Charlotte, North Carolina. And if you're interested in learning more about creating sketch notes for sermons, or even narrated sketch notes, you can check out my book, which is almost finished, but it's actually online. It's just one chapter short, and I'm going to finish that up. My goal is before Christmas, and it's called Pocket Share Jesus, Be a Digital Witness for Christ. Hope you have a great day.